Hi there. My name is Josh Garrett-Davis. I'm a Gamble Associate Curator of Western History, Popular Culture, and Firearms here at the Autry Museum of the American West. I'm here to give you a tour of the Spirit of Imagination Gallery, which is one of the original galleries that the Autry installed when we opened in 1988. And it covers the ways the Western genre portrayed the West all the way from Wild West shows in the late 19th century to the present in lots of different media. So here we go. Let's take a little tour. So here we have a case about museum co-founder and our museum's namesake, Gene Autry. And Gene Autry was one of the biggest stars in the world at a certain point in time, and he's the only performer who has all 5 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for radio, recording, motion pictures, live performance, and television. As well as you can see, he was the owner of the California Angels baseball team. He's also known for being the first performer of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and the author of Here Comes Santa Claus, some of our perennial favorites of the holiday season. So there is Gene Autry in his multiple aspects of his career. Too much to really encompass in a short visit, but we try to capture some of the media and different ways that he portrayed the West through his music and his performance. So Gene Autry wasn't the only singing cowboy. He was America's favorite singing cowboy, but the singing cowboy phenomenon, especially in the 1930s and then 40s, was a huge part of film and radio and then television. And so we show a few other parts of the singing cowboy phenomenon. Here is probably really fascinating is Herb Jeffries, or Herbert Jeffrey as he is billed here, was an African-American singing cowboy who did a series of singing cowboy films. You'll have to recall at that time most theaters were segregated, and so the audiences, the African-American audiences for films really enjoyed his version of the singing cowboy films. Here we have a ukulele, shows kind of some of the diversity of types of music going on. A baritone ukulele from Martin Guitar Company, played by Dick Ferran, another singing cowboy. And then we come to a bigger case here of Monty Hale. And Monty Hale co-founded the museum. Monty Hale and his wife Joanne Hale, who was the first director of our museum, co-founded it with Gene and Jackie Autry. And he was also a singing cowboy in many films and other media in the 1930s and 40s. You can see all of the toys, there's even a Brazilian comic book here I like, O Juvenil Mensal, I like to point out because my in-laws are from Brazil, so it's one of the few things in Portuguese that we have on display. And moving on, the other singing cowboy that was extremely famous was Roy Rogers and performed a lot with his wife Dale Evans, and they were huge stars. And these are some highlights from Nudi's rodeo tailors who produced some of these amazing rhinestone outfits. Another Wild West show performer you may have heard of is Tom Mix, and who became one of the earliest film stars in Hollywood in the silent film era after performing in the 101 Ranch Wild West show. And so we have his hat and many of his artifacts, which are quite wonderful, as a huge movie star. And just to kind of point out this Remington Model 8 rifle, a presentation rifle that has some of the most amazing engraving of any of the firearms in our collection. So especially feature that here. Another star who made the transition from the Wild West show era to the early silent film industry was Buck Jones, who appeared in a lot of silent films and was a big cowboy star. And this is his saddle. And his wife was Dell Jones, and she was a very successful trick rider and stunt double. She would even be a stunt double for many men in different films, and hasn't been remembered as much, so we like to feature her because women don't get the same sort of star treatment in Hollywood memory that a lot of these men cowboy stars do, so it's important to remember Del Jones. One of the artists that we have an amazing collection from is the saddle maker Edward Bolan, who you see here looking very dapper in a bow tie. He was born in Sweden and saw the Wild West show as a young man and moved to the American West based on popular culture, and then he became known as one of the great sort of silversmiths and saddle makers and leather workers who did Western themed things. And his masterpiece was the quote-unquote the big saddle shown here in the middle of the room that he worked on for himself. It's a parade saddle, and it just has an amazing amount of detail of different animals and different scenes from the West. So you can see the other side of the saddle here, and keep in mind this saddle weighs about 70 pounds, so it has to be a very big, strong horse to carry that, plus a rider. So of course, country and Western music is one of the key ways the American West has been represented in pop culture, and this case features some instruments from different musicians in that genre. And a special call out here to Patsy Montana, whose song "I Want to Be a Cowboy's Sweetheart" was the first million-selling record for a woman country and Western performer, and she would be on the National Barn Dance and the Grand Ole Autry singing different country and Western songs. This case here deals with how Native American people have been portrayed in Western movies mostly, with a few examples, including from Geronimo from the 1990s. And then we have two outfits from actual Native American people who participated in Hollywood. One, this is the outfit of Jay Silverheels, who was Mohawk from the Six Nations Reserve in Canada, who came to Hollywood, and he is most well known for playing Tonto on the Lone Ranger series. But he has had many credits in different Hollywood films, always or often in quite stereotypical roles, but he did make a career in Hollywood. And this dress belonged to Bertha Parker Cody, who didn't do that many films, but she actually worked at the Southwest Museum as an archaeologist, who was the first Native woman archaeologist. She was Seneca and Abenaki. She'll be featured in our upcoming exhibition, What's Her Story? But she also participated in Hollywood, and she was married to Iron Eyes Cody, who was an Italian-American who many people believed or he portrayed Native people, but he was not actually Native himself. And they would rent out costumes to different Hollywood films, and this was one of the costumes that belonged to Bertha Parker Cody that would be rented out, but she also wore it, we believe. This is a section of the gallery that explores race, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, and how those turned up in the imagined West and in Western movies. It begins with our somewhat remarkable collections related to African American Westerns, going all the way back to the silent film era. The Norman Film Company produced a lot of all African American cast films, most of which are lost now, but we have scripts and other archival materials related to them. And then this next part explores how Latino Latino performers appeared in different Western films, including the character of the Cisco Kid, whose costume this is, played by Duncan Ronaldo. He was not actually Mexican American, but he played one on TV, as they say, and his sidekick was played by Leo Carrillo. Here we have Annie Oakley, as played by Betty Hutton in Annie Get Your Gun, in the musical, and an exploration of how LGBTQ characters showed up very rarely in Western films prior to Brokeback Mountain. But this is from a film called Zorro the Gay Blade in 1981, and Asian American characters, including in a remarkable movie called A Thousand Pieces of Gold from 1991, from who this dragon head comes from. And this is a place where the Autry asks, what is a Western? With props and costumes from Thelma and Louise, the classic 1990s film. and does a film set in the present day count as a Western? So this case explores the way radio shaped how we think of the West, and we have this amazing guitar and outfit that belonged to Eddie Dean, a performer, as well as sort of some props used for sound effects on radio Western. And then one of my favorite outfits, of course, is this golden, sparkly, Nudies Rodeo Taylor's outfit that belongs to Rex Allen with the amazing saguaro cactuses. So this case explores television Westerns, of course, and one of our great archives is the David Dortort collection. He's the creator of Bonanza, so we have all these archives from his collection, only a tiny portion of which are on display here at any given time. And then, of course, we have The Lone Ranger, played by Clayton Moore. In its day, such a popular, iconic television show. I'm gonna go to Gunsmoke, and all the way up to Walker, Texas Ranger as a Western. So one of the most amazing kind of types of collections in the Autry are toys from the Western genre, and these range from lunch boxes to figurines, rocking horse, toy guns, all of this kind of things. And this is a display of a few of those. We have a lot more, and we will have a lot in our upcoming version of this exhibition. And here is a favorite of the gallery, the child's bedroom, set up as maybe a kind of ideal 1950s Western fan would set it up with all of the great toys and props. So here's a couple of paintings of original artwork that was used on film posters. The first one is from Once Upon a Time in the West, the great Sergio Leone film, and also a Japanese press book from that film. And over here is a painting by none other than Norman Rockwell portraying Gary Cooper in the film Along Came Jones. This case captures some of the classic post-World War II Westerns and features Rooster Cogburn starring Katharine Hepburn and John Wayne. There's Katharine Hepburn's outfit and part of John Wayne's outfit. This is also the era of John Ford, the great director who made several films with John Wayne. And so these are posters from and costumes from some of those films. This case kind of features pretty modern Westerns from the 1990s and onward. We might call them post-Westerns, from Unforgiven to The Pale Rider, Clint Eastwood's films, Brokeback Mountain, and Jim Jarmusch's Dead Man. And we come over here to this great Polish poster for the original. This is an older film, Westworld, that you can see there. And our Polish movie poster collection is one of the sort of under-known highlights of our museum collection, where artists did their own takes on different films that had just amazing artwork. Thanks for joining me on the tour. We look forward to sharing the new Imagined West's gallery with you very soon.